But you know, as they say, you've been waiting a while, so I'm gonna give you 25 minutes or so. How about that? I'm gonna tell you what's at stake. I'm gonna do some thank yous, and I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna win. But it is good to be here with so many great friends. We're gonna do some thank yous first. But when I came out, I did say it's still Nevada, isn't it? I mean, I heard that somebody is trying to instruct y'all on, like, there needs to be a whole new thing, a whole new name for the state. And look, he's got the right to tell everybody how to live their life, right? I mean, when I read that today, my staff wanted me to say something about it. I said, no, you got to prove to me that that's what he said. I think you're joking me. No, I guess not. So here we are in Nevada with great Nevadans, great silver staters, and wait a minute, what is your motto? Isn't it battle born? I like being in a state whose motto is battle born, and we actually got a good motto in Virginia for this particular race, Sic Semper Tyrannis. That's our motto in Virginia, because we like to battle too. Actually battle with stakes this high. It is great to be here in the House of Labor with the Carpenters. Thank you to all. General President Douglas McCarran, what a great leader, and so many others. We thank you, Mr. President. And when I came in today, I said we started last night doing an event with a bunch of sheet metal workers in a union hall in Philly. We did an event with educators, AFT and PSEA educators in a Philadelphia public school this morning. We went to Pittsburgh before we flew here and did a big event with steel workers and a lot of sheet metal workers and construction trades folks. So it's great to be in the House of Labor, and I'm joined by some very special people. My mom and dad. My mom and dad, Al and Kathy Kaine, they decided to come out and see me mix it up a little bit during the debate with Mike Pence. And then they have come on the road with me for a couple of days, and I just wanted to especially talk about my mom and dad, because my dad ran an ironworker organized welding shop in the stockyards of Kansas City, where they still live. And it was not a big business. It was 5 employees in a tough year, and maybe 10 or 12 in a good year, plus my mom, plus my 2 brothers and me. And my dad was the owner, so he was management, but he always taught us, the boys, he always taught us, look, my business skill will put my kids my workers' kids through school, but their artistry, their craftsmanship will put you boys through school. It's a team. It's not management against labor. It's not the employer against employees. It's a team. And it's stronger together, folks. That's what the message is. When we work as a team, when we work as a team, we do a lot better. And if you carpenters will forgive me for a little ironworker story, when my dad, after having run the business for a while, they had a spot open up on the National Pension Fund Board for the ironworkers. 3 employers, 3 employees. Now this is a small business, it's not one of the massive ones, but they asked my dad to be one of the 3 employers on the board. And then for years he worked together with the union reps to make sure that the pension was there so that iron workers would have a good retirement. Years later, I'm running for office in Virginia. I've been to city council and I've been a mayor, and I decided to run for statewide office as lieutenant governor. And I go meet, at that point, the head of the ironworkers is a guy named Joe Hunt. He just put his hand on my shoulder, and I didn't say anything. He just said, "We're not going to let the son of an ironworker lose." And ever since that race, I've had labor solidly behind me, and I'm proud to tell you, I'm 8-0 in races, and I'm going to be 9-0 after November 8th. I'm going to be 9-0 after November 8th. Hillary called and asked if I'd be on the ticket. This was July 22nd at 7:32 p.m. Not that it was a memorable moment in my life. She called and asked if I'd be on the ticket. I started to say yes, and then she said, "Well, don't answer. I want to tell you why first." And she said, "Look, here's the thing about what I want a Clinton administration to be. I want it to be measured, not by a bill signing and not by a headline. I want it to be measured by, is a worker able to get some more skills? Is an employer able to hire a few more people? Is a classroom a better learning environment for a teacher or a student? Is a neighborhood a little bit safer? Do our troops feel a little more like we got their back?" We got to measure it by difference in people's lives. And she said, "Look, you've been a civil rights lawyer and a missionary in Honduras and a mayor and a governor and etc. I think you will help me make sure that as we measure what we do, we measure it by the difference in people's lives." And so that's why she asked me to be on the ticket. And I got to tell you, I am so humbled to be on the ticket with such a dynamic and qualified leader. And I also am glad to be on a ticket to make history and elect the first woman president. And then after she told me all the reasons she wanted me on the ticket, she said, "And you haven't lost a race either. I kind of need a rabbit's foot on this thing. You haven't lost a race." So it is so good to be with you and be on this ticket. And we're 33 days out. We're in the home stretch where this is mostly what we're doing now, gathering and reminding people of how important the race is and how to register and how to early vote in states that allow it and how to work as volunteers. So say, first vote. This will be his first vote for president, he told you. And he's not just voting, but he's organizing. And nobody knows how to organize better than the Carpenters, better than organizing. A couple of other thank yous. Andrea Ruby did the national anthem earlier. Gabriella Everett is the regional organizing director for the Nevada Democratic Party. We've had state senators Joyce Woodhouse and Patricia Spearman speak a little bit, and all of you are special. Everybody here is special. We're all in this together, and it is so good to be here. I understand that Donald Trump was here recently, and in addition to not knowing how to pronounce the name of the state. Now look, everybody can make a mistake. But it's only Donald Trump who then tries to tell you, no, you all should change the way you pronounce it and do it the way I want you to, right? I mean, nobody would think to do that other than Donald Trump. He was also asked about an important issue here in Nevada, Yucca Mountain. And I mean, this is important. Everybody knows about this issue. And he says, well, I'm going to take a strong look at it, and I'm going to come back very strongly one way or another. I will have an opinion. I'm sure he'll have an opinion. He's known for having some opinions, but he doesn't seem to be too much up on things. He also said something yesterday when he was here that hasn't gotten so much attention, but that I think is pretty interesting. He was talking about the U.S. relationship with China and how, I want to get tough with China. Now, let's hold on a second. Donald Trump is in hot to the bank in China. He hadn't given us his tax return, so we don't know by how much, but there has been enough study for us to understand that he owes Wall Street banks and the Bank of China at least $650 million. So you got to question how tough you're going to be with the guy who has lent you a lot of money, including the Bank of China. But he said, I'm going to be tough with the Bank of China. And an enterprising reporter said to him, well, if you're tough with China over trade, what if they decide to deny visas to anybody who wants to go to Las Vegas and stay at a Trump hotel? And he says, we could cut off all relations with China if that happens. If they hurt my hotel, folks, if they hurt my hotel, we will cut off all relations with the nation of China. I mean, is he watching out for our bottom line, or is he watching out for Donald Trump's bottom line? And that is why this is such a critical election. There's an awful lot of reasons why this one is so important. I opened off by saying how happy I am to be here in the House of Labor. It is the case that in my entire political career in Virginia, which is not the most union-friendly state, I've always stood with labor, and they've stood with me. When I was governor, I put a union member in my cabinet. That had never happened in Virginia before. And I'm sad to tell you that something else happened that had never happened in Virginia before. My Republican legislature rejected a cabinet secretary for the first time in history because I had the nerve to put in the cabinet a labor leader. I mean, if we're going to be sitting around the table talking about jobs, I've got business leaders in the cabinet, that people are fine with that. What about having a working person who has come up the hard way, working at manufacturing, who's gone from being hired and even being laid off, who knows the pain and the struggle of working families? But my legislature had made a funny mistake. They had required all these cabinet secretaries to be confirmed by the legislature, but they had created a new cabinet position to be in charge of all workforce training programs in the state, and they had forgot to put in that statute that it was subject to confirmation by my legislature. So I had left that position unfilled. And when I put Danny LeBlanc, my AFL-CIO leader, up for being secretary of the Commonwealth, and they turned him down the very next day, I put him as head of all workforce programs in the state, and they couldn't say one thing about it. They couldn't say one thing about it. Hillary and I deeply believe in issues that affect working people, and we deeply believe that labor is on the forefront, not only of helping organize labor, but the battles that you undertake in organizing and the battles that you take in state legislatures and in Congress end up benefiting everybody. That's what the labor movement has been. I mean, it's like we got stronger together from you guys. That's what the labor movement is about, that one person doesn't have much power and can get pushed around, whether it's in the workplace or civil rights or anything else. The labor movement understands that juntos somos más fuertes, juntos podemos, that we're strong, and we have absorbed that from you, and so it's a real honor to be here and tell you that Hillary and I support labor, we support collective bargaining, and we will make darn sure that when we are filling vacancies on the Supreme Court, we will put people on the court who understand the important role that labor plays in this country. Anybody watch my debate Tuesday night from Farmville? It was fiery and feisty. I mean, I'm a little Irish. And I went into that debate with two goals. And the first one is this: I'm not going to let them score any points off Hillary Clinton. I am going to defend my running mate. I'm going to defend my. That's what you do when you're vice president. You support and defend your running mate in a campaign, and also to make sure that the administration is the best that it can be. And the nice thing was, Governor Pence came in loaded for bear to make this all about Hillary, and I had to be a little assertive to do so, but I ended up getting him off his game in that way. And so after the debate, there wasn't a headline about Hillary. There wasn't a headline about any new attack about Hillary. There wasn't any new line of argument that was opened up, and that's exactly what we wanted. And I felt real good about that. I felt like I'd never played hockey before, but now I know what it's like to be a goaltender and block a lot of pucks coming in. But they didn't score a single one against Hillary Clinton on Tuesday night. And then the second goal that I had, and this was a really important one, and I didn't know how this was going to go. But my goal was to challenge Governor Pence again and again and again with every horrible thing Donald Trump has done or said, and say to him, I can't imagine how you can defend this. Now, I didn't know whether he was going to defend it or not, and frankly, either would have been instructive. But what we found over and over and over again, and I did this 8 or 10 times, is he decided, when I put that challenge on the table, you could almost see the wheels turn. Nah, I don't think I'll defend it. I think I'll maybe change the subject and talk about something else. And so at some point, about an hour into the debate, I just said, I hope you notice what's going on here. I just keep putting this challenge down on the table. Defend calling Mexicans rapists and criminals. Defend challenging a federal judge who was born in your state of Indiana that Donald Trump said was unqualified to hear a case because his parents were Mexican. Defend ridiculing John McCain, for God's sake, who's my armed services chair, and saying this guy who was a POW in Vietnam for 4 years is not a hero because, quote, he's not a hero, he got captured. I like the ones who don't get captured. Now, can I just ask you, can I ask you, who has that thought come into their mind? Who, if they have that thought come into their mind, would let it come out of their mouth? And who has that thought in their mind and lets it come out of their mouth thinks they can be commander-in-chief, for God's sake? We should not let him within 10 time zones of the White House and being commander-in-chief. And we asked him, defend Donald Trump wanting us to have a deportation force, defend Donald Trump saying wages are too high, defend Donald Trump saying President Obama is not a U.S. citizen for 5 years. And again and again and again, Mike Pence decided, yeah, maybe I'll let that one go. And I'll tell you this, if you can't defend your running mate like I defended Hillary Clinton, if you can't defend your own running mate, how can you ask one person to vote for your running mate? If you're too ashamed to stand up for him and defend him, you shouldn't be asking one person to come. And in the aftermath of the debate, that's sort of been the story, that Mike Pence did well for Mike Pence, but he kind of threw Donald Trump under the bus. People interpret it as, well, Mike Pence is really auditioning for 2020. He's already assuming that Trump's going to lose, and it's like he's typing up his resume when the race is still going on and auditioning for a race 4 years from now. And the word out of Trump Tower, New York, is
Bill Clinton is a rapist.
The Donald was too happy. The Donald was not too happy about my mistake, right?
Bill Clinton is a rapist.
So if you add that to a bunch of things, Donald Trump was horrible at his debate, Hillary was great.
Bill Clinton's a rapist!
And then Donald Trump, after the debate, went into a full-scale meltdown attacking women for their weight. And then his own running mate stands on the stage and won't defend him. He's going into this debate with Hillary Sunday in a pretty tough spot. And then that last debate, the closing debate, the home stretch debate right here in Las Vegas is going to be I want to talk about just two issues that came up in the debate, and then talk about how we're going to win this thing, and how you fit in, and why Hillary and I are both so humbled to have your support. First issue I want to talk about is immigration reform, and I'll talk a bit about it. We've got two issues that we're going to put on the table in the first 100 days. Let me talk about both of them together: the economy and immigration reform. I'm going to put them together and then talk about actually one more issue. On the economy, we're going to put a plan on the table, and I call Hillary your hired president, Donald Trump your fired president. I mean, isn't it poetically just that the two words we think of when we think of Donald Trump are you're fired? And my prediction is when this campaign is over and people have forgotten everything else about it, they will remember about Donald Trump, you're fired. That's what they'll remember. But Hillary and I, we talked about this on stage. Our plan is, let's invest in manufacturing and infrastructure and research for the jobs of tomorrow, and then let's invest in our workforce. Whether it's pre-K or great teachers or debt-free college, free if your family makes less than $125,000 a year, or whether it's career and technical programs like the training center that the Carpenters run right here. We need to raise the focus on apprenticeships and career training and make sure that's seen as every bit as important as community college and college. I mean, we've got a shipbuilding apprenticeship program in Virginia that is one of the best career and technical programs in the world, and it's a steelworkers. It's the largest steelworkers local in the steelworkers family. But I'll tell you something, Mr. President, I'll tell you something that is bad. In federal policy right now, if you graduate from that apprenticeship program, 3-year program, I gave the graduation speech in March. And I told the graduates of this career and technical program two wonderful things, two facts about themselves. One, I said, to get into this program, it is a more selective program than getting into Harvard University. Harvard accepts 5.9% of applicants. This shipbuilding program accepts 5.2%. And 60% of those accepted already have college, some college background. But that's the first fact. It's a great program. But the second fact is when you graduate after 3 years from this program, we do not count you as having a higher education degree. If you go 2-year community college, we count you as having a higher ed degree. If you go 4 years University of Nevada or University of Virginia, we count you as having a higher ed degree. But you go 3 years and then you have a good job and a good skill and you're doing something really patriotic, building nuclear aircraft carriers and subs. Our stats don't even register that you have a higher ed degree. We've got to have an education system that values career and technical training and apprenticeship programs every as much as college. And so our economic plan is manufacturing and research and infrastructure, invest in workers, fairness investments, raise the minimum wage, women should get paid equal for equal work. I mean, that's pretty basic. Focus on the success of small businesses, make them easier to start, make them easier to grow. That's where 65% of new jobs come, businesses just like my dad's. And then the last one is what to do about the tax code, and here's what we say. If you're making less than $250,000, no increase in tax rates, and you'll get targeted tax relief for things like child care and help on college education, and we'll give tax relief to small businesses. But let's face it, if you're at the top end, if you're wealthy, if you're one of the biggest companies and you've seen your bottom line really grow coming out of the recession, we're going to ask you to pay more to invest in workers and invest in infrastructure. And when we do that, everybody's going to do better. We'll have an economy that works for everyone. We talked about on stage that the Trump economic plan is different. It's pretty much two pillars. The first is Donald Trump said, quote, wages are too high. Donald Trump is against the federal minimum wage. He doesn't think we need it. States should just figure it out. Mike Pence is against the minimum wage. He voted as a member of Congress against raising the minimum wage over $5.15. And in Indiana, as governor, he's waged battle against minimum wage. When cities in Indiana want to raise the minimum wage, their voters elected and they tell them what they want to have happen in their city, and so they try to raise minimum wage. Indiana state law has shut down the ability of any city or county to do wage-related ordinances. So their first kind of economic plan is wages are too high, and then their second one is let's give tax breaks to folks at the very top. Now, we did that 10 years ago. We gave tax breaks to folks at the top, and it tanked the economy. And I don't know about you, we used to say in Honduras, we're adelante no atrás. We are going to go forward, and we're not going back. We're not going to go back to a tax plan to tank the American economy. It's about fairness. So that was a piece, our economic plan and the Trump comparison. You're a hired president or you're a fired president. I don't think it's that hard to decide what we ought to do. And the second thing we talked about was immigration reform. And Governor Pence and I got into quite a back and forth about this. Hillary and I believe in bipartisan and comprehensive immigration reform. And the top value is keep families together and don't separate families. That's number one. And then number two, we will do more border security because we should. I voted for that 3 years ago. It's important to have good border security, obviously. We will focus our enforcement efforts on people who are causing harm, not on families that are working and paying taxes and doing great stuff. We're going to focus it on people who are dangerous. And finally, we will have a path to citizenship. A camino a ciudadanía. If you have, si estás trabajando aquí sin documentos, y si estás trabajando duro, pagando impuestos, y haciendo las reglas, if you're paying taxes and working hard and playing by the rules, then there's going to be a sendero a ciudadanía para ustedes, a path to citizenship for you. That's what we're going to do. And that's our plan. And together with our economic plan, we're putting on a table in the first 100 days. And if we win, we're going to say, look, we got a mandate. We talked to the public about it. We said this is what we want, and they picked us. So since they picked us, we know what they want. And this is what they want. We're going to work to make that happen. And I challenged the other guys on the deportation nation. You know, we should be a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants, but they want to become deportation nation. Their plan is to go to 16 million people. Now, 11.5 million are people without documents. But there's another 4.5 million who are American citizens. Because Donald Trump and Mike Pence want to take away birthright citizenship. 4.5 million people in this country were born here to parents who were undocumented. And Trump and Pence say, no, they got to be added into the list of those that we're going to deport. I do not want... And I will fight against it. I don't care what office I hold or don't hold. I will fight against this country becoming deportation nation with every last breath. That's not who we are. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let it happen. And then I kept after Governor Pence on the cruel rhetoric that Donald Trump uses. Why did he say in his first campaign speech? Remember, in the campaign, you're supposed to be making yourself likable. Imagine if he says this stuff in a campaign, what he's going to say if he were to win, right? And in his likable moment, when he's introducing his presidential campaign, he said Mexicans are rapists and criminals. And he said all kinds of things like that since, including this attack on the Mexican-American judge, who was a distinguished public servant. And so I kept coming back to Governor Pence and I said, can you defend this? How can you defend this? How can you defend this? And he kept changing the subject. But when I brought it up one too many times and made it mad, he said, oh, there you go, whipping out that Mexican thing again. People, who talks like that? I mean, who talks like that? It ain't a thing. It's an entire group of people who are entitled to dignity and respect and to be treated with equality. It ain't a thing. It ain't a thing. He seems to think it's, that's just some words. That's just some words. We don't even write the words. Gospel of Matthew. From the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. When somebody tells you something, they're showing you who they are. And every time Donald Trump speaks, it's, women are pigs, slums, dogs, and disgusting. Muslims should be treated as second class. And, He mocked a disabled reporter, and we have this poor Virginia family, the Kaine family. They live in Charlottesville. Their son was killed protecting his colleagues in arms when he was in the military, deployed overseas. And Donald Trump went after their family. I mean, there's not a group. Donald Trump called Pope Francis disgraceful. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. But, you know, the attitude on the other side is, oh, you know, that's just some words. No, it ain't words. This is values. This is the heart of this man that we're looking into. And that's what makes the stakes so high, and that's why doing immigration reform, doing it the right way, and treating people fairly is an important part of what we're going to do. One other issue that I want to talk about, how we're going to do it. I've already talked a little bit about our tax plans, but I want to talk a little bit now about tax returns. And Jose talked about this when he came up and said, look, I've been a citizen for a year and I'm proud to vote. I'm a tax-paying person, and before I was a citizen, I was paying taxes. He was paying taxes. You know that Donald Trump, with the story that's now out, pretty much made it plain he's not paying taxes. And I kind of want to walk this through with you because there's some points about this. It's more than about taxes. It's back into this. Let's look into the guy's heart and see what we see. So, a couple of points. First, there's a precedent. If you're running for president, you produce your taxes if you're the nominee of a major party. The precedent started, interestingly enough, with Richard Nixon, who was no paragon of ethics, but I mean, even he did it. And the circumstances are interesting. Nixon didn't do it